How long should you work out for during each training session? Is there actually a time limit for your workouts that you don't want to exceed? After all, I'm sure you've heard some people say that working out for longer than 45 minutes to an hour will have a negative effect on your hormones and do more harm than good, ultimately limiting your progress. Meanwhile, others say that there's no need to worry so much about overtraining, and the more time you put into your workouts, the faster results you'll get. So, which one is it? Well, that's exactly what I want to go over in today's video. And not only will I provide my personal suggestions, but I'll also go over exactly what the scientific research has to say on this topic. So let's start first with a very common belief that you should never exceed hour-long workouts, and preferably even keep your workouts under 45 minutes. This idea is mostly based around what happens to hormones like testosterone, growth hormone, and cortisol during exercise. When you start working out, your body will respond by naturally boosting testosterone levels, and the theory is that this boost is supposed to help improve our performance, help us build muscle to a greater degree, and it's also supposed to help us burn more fat. So far, so good. However, the idea is that after around 45 minutes, your cortisol levels will start rising while your testosterone levels start dropping, putting your body into a catabolic mode where you're more likely to break down muscle tissue for energy and store more body fat. So exercising past the 45-minute mark was always thought to be at best a waste of time, and at worst, something that could undo all your hard work at the gym. Now, is there any truth to this? Well, there have been a couple studies that looked at this topic directly, and one of the first ones was a small study back in 2001 that involved a small sample size of only 16 men. The researchers divided these men into two groups. One group only trained one arm for 9 weeks, while the other group trained their arm the same way, but also included 8 sets of legs at the end of their arm workouts to stimulate more testosterone and growth hormone production. Sure enough, after each workout, blood tests showed that the group that also trained their legs experienced higher spikes in testosterone and growth hormone levels. And at the end of the 9 weeks, the group that worked both their arm and legs increased their strength in their trained arm by a whopping 37%, while the group that only worked their arm without training their legs increased their arm strength by only 9%. So this study clearly showed that you should ideally limit your workout length to the first 45 minutes while testosterone and growth hormone are elevated, since in this study it led to more gains. Or did it? Well, it actually turns out the study was flawed. The participants in the legs and arm group started off 20 to 25% weaker than the participants in the arm-only group, giving them the opportunity to take greater advantage of newbie gains, leading to a greater change in their strength levels throughout the entire study. So it was ultimately inconclusive. Now, another similar study that also had a small sample size of only 12 men once again had one group training only one arm, while the other group would finish off their arm training workouts with some sets for legs. But this time, even though the group that trained their legs did have a higher rise in testosterone and growth hormone during the workout, their arm didn't grow any more in size than the other group that didn't train their legs and didn't receive that hormonal boost during the workout. So now we have two conflicting studies, and of course you have to keep in mind that both of these studies did have a very small sample size. So another study was conducted with a slightly larger group of 56 people, and once again the researchers concluded that exercise-induced changes to anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone had a very weak correlation with building more muscle or strength. Now, aside from these 3 studies, there were many others which also had conflicting results. But a research review of all these studies on the topic concluded that there isn't enough evidence to suggest that exercise-induced changes to hormones like testosterone, growth hormone, and cortisol will lead to more muscle growth. But even if it was to actually lead to more growth, the effect would be very small at best. So the bottom line is that it's very unlikely that exercising longer than 45 minutes, an hour, or even an hour and a half will have that much of a negative impact on your results. Even if it does cause testosterone to drop and cortisol to rise at exactly the 45-minute mark, it doesn't seem to matter all that much. Instead, it seems that you're far better off focusing on other factors that determine the effectiveness of your program rather than the amount of time you spend at the gym. Obviously, you shouldn't be taking crazy long breaks between sets to take a selfie or to waste time talking with your friends, but As long as your workout is set up correctly and you're taking the appropriate rest times in between sets, whether that's 60-second breaks, 3-minute breaks, or 5-minute breaks, the total time spent at the gym shouldn't really be that much of a factor at all. Instead, the four most important factors that you want to focus on are frequency, intensity, sets, and reps. These four factors make up volume, and it's been proven that increasing volume will lead to more muscle growth and better results. For example, working your chest twice a week instead of just once a week is very likely to lead to faster results. Progressively increasing the amount of weight you lift week after week is very likely to lead to faster results. And increasing the amount of sets and reps you perform during each session is another thing that will very likely lead to faster results. Focusing on increasing all four of those factors over time will undoubtedly lead to far greater results instead of focusing on getting out of the gym on time to spare your body of the incoming cortisol rise at the 45-minute mark. In fact, even if you accidentally spent an hour and a half in the gym, but thanks to that extra half an hour you performed way more sets and reps during that workout than you would be able to if you limited yourself to only an hour, it would make sense that you would get much better results since you would increase total training volume in that way. Now, with all that said, what about overtraining? If you cross that line, you might be working harder than ever, but instead of seeing improvements, you'll be slowing down your progress, causing overuse injuries, creating hormonal imbalances, and if you continue to overtrain for too long, you can gain body fat and lose muscle mass. So isn't there a point where you'll eventually have diminishing returns from training for too long? Maybe not after an hour, but what about after 2 hours or 3 hours? Well, again, the time spent working out per session is not the issue. The issue is the overtraining itself. Overtraining can still happen even if you limit every one of your workouts to only an hour long. You can also spend 3 hours in the gym mostly talking about your favorite football team and how much the referee sucked during the game last night, and you'll ultimately wind up undertraining. But again, this comes down to the quality of your workout, not the length of your workout. Just like you don't want to rush your workout, you don't want to drag it on either. Taking long 10 to 15-minute breaks between your sets will cause your muscles to cool down, increasing the chances of getting an injury during that workout. Dragging out a workout will also allow your muscles to fully recover between each set, and it'll decrease your pump between sets, which will all lead to subpar results. So the point is that as long as you're not goofing off, wasting time in the gym, you don't need to worry about having to spend some extra time finishing up your workout. Especially since there's no doubt that certain workouts and certain programs will require you to spend more time at the gym than others. For example, a heavy weight training workout will require longer breaks in between sets, which could easily keep you in the gym for longer. Training your entire upper body in one session with an upper body split training routine will probably take longer than spending an entire workout session just training your chest with a bro split routine. If you're trying to burn a certain amount of calories, a slow jog on the treadmill will take you longer than a high intensity interval training session that burns calories much faster. So focus on factors that do matter, like increasing volume and sticking to a pre-planned rest time between sets. But don't worry so much about the total amount of time it takes you to get in and out of the gym. That's about it for today, guys. I really hope I've helped you see that there is no reason for you to rush your way through your workout because of some outdated myths. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you can constantly get instant access to more free tips and tricks